a lot stronger, and I think he's going to have better endurance. Not being able to boil himself down like that, and even though it is a huge jump, I think we lose sight of the fact of how much he had to boil down and how gaunt he looked at 140.
Obvious, I guess, because Crawford is bigger.
Right.
Crawford is heavy, you know, like he carries himself, you know, he's very solid right now. He's taller, you know, when you see the face off. So he is technically bigger.
Looking at this thing and I'm like, okay, so let me look at this from Canelo's perspective and the experience of being in the ring with guys that are long and fast. What we've seen come from Canelo is the patience. Something that I know from my own personal experience, a guy that shows a lot of patience and you don't bother him by winning rounds. I don't think Canelo's going to get bothered.
Andre Ward has issued a stern warning to Canelo Alvarez as he weighs in on the looming challenge of Terence Crawford. Ward highlights that subtle signs of father time are beginning to creep into Canelo's game, a slightly lower punch output, reflexes that don't snap the same way they once did. Still, he acknowledges that even with these changes, Canelo remains superior to the vast majority of fighters on the planet today. Ward praises his craft and intelligence inside the ring, describing them as still world-class, but he stresses that Crawford presents a completely different type of threat. To emphasize the contrast, Ward compares Canelo's recent bouts to preseason warm-ups, warning that the real season begins when Crawford's razor-sharp timing, adaptive style, and fight-tending precision step into the ring.
In my case, but I'm really not moving up in weight. I'm just not having to boil myself down. So I think that Terence is going to be a lot stronger, and I think he's going to have better endurance. Not being able to boil himself down like that, and even though it is a huge jump, I think we lose sight of the fact of how much he had to boil down and how gaunt he looked at 140, and even quickly at 147. It got to the point where you start to cut into muscle mass. If you know anything about weight loss, at a certain point, that affects you in a boxing ring. Boxing, maybe wrestling, and MMA are the only sports where you have to tear yourself down for two months or 3 months, not just the training, but the weight loss. And then you have less than or right around 24 hours to put it back on. And then you need to go be great the next night. Everybody else gets to play or compete at their walking around weight or their playing weight. So I think that's going to favor Terence Crawford, is not having to boil down 25 or 20. It's probably going to be about 10 to 12.
What do you make of the state of Canelo right now? Because it does seem like he's received a little bit of heat, and I think the last performance, it was somewhat warranted because like the output was historically low. But to me, I felt like he knew. I mean, Terence was sitting there in the front row in Riyadh. Like, why would you even put yourself in risk when you've got this gigantic fight waiting for you? Like, just get the win over Skull, move on, get the belts, and you get the big fight. So how much do you chalk it up to, like, you know, the motivation just isn't there because the opponents aren't on his level? Or maybe he's just getting older and, as you know, Father Time is undefeated?
Great question. I think a couple of things are true. I think, number one, Father Time is catching up to Canelo, but it's subtle. A little less punch output than normal. Maybe the reflexes have weaned just a little bit, but he's still better than most fighters in the world today.
Brian Mendoza, a skilled junior middleweight contender, believes the edge in a potential showdown tips toward Canelo Alvarez, not only due to his size advantage, but also because of his veteran experience and well-honed skill set. Mendoza admits that Terence Crawford is an extraordinary talent who has consistently proven himself against elite-level opposition, but he emphasizes a fundamental truth in boxing. Weight divisions exist for a reason. Canelo's long tenure at higher weights, particularly his comfort in dominance at 168 pounds, gives him a natural advantage that Crawford cannot replicate overnight. While Mendoza respects Crawford's greatness, his analysis leans toward Canelo. He underscores the Mexican superstar's ring IQ, his history of beating bigger men, and his ability to remain composed in the face of dangerous opposition. Factors that, in Mendoza's eyes, tilt the fight in Canelo's favor.
We gonna finish this thing strong. We're gonna get Brian Mendoza's perspective of what you think about this fight with Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford.
It's so, like, I feel like every day I'm almost kind of changing my opinion, but at the end of the day, I lean towards Canelo because of the size.
Yeah.
But I know the size thing isn't so, like, so obvious, I guess, because Crawford is bigger.
Right.
Crawford is heavy, you know, like he carries himself, you know, he's very solid right now. He's taller, you know, when you've seen the face off. So he is technically bigger. It's just the size it's very different when you carry that weight in the ring. That's what you got to worry about performing with. And, you know, just based off kind of like the performance at 154, although it was against a very solid fighter with Madrimov, I don't know if he's going to be solid enough, you know, just used to carrying that type of weight around at 68. So that's the reason I lean towards Canelo, but the skill-wise, everything else is obviously still more on Bud's side.
Yeah.
So that's where my toss-up is. So I just lean towards Canelo because at the end of the day, you got to respect the weight classes.
We've been real heavy on this fight. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks now. And I feel like every time I've spoken about Canelo and Crawford, the only thing I'm talking about is Crawford. So I said, you know what? Today I'm going to flip the script. Today it's all about Canelo for me. And I might break your heart in the process. But I got to keep it real. You're right. This is a 50-50 fight. This is a fight where, as I was telling the Uber driver this morning, these guys, we've seen them both make mistakes in the ring. But they've never cost them, right? This is the first fight that I believe they both have are going to get in the ring where the small mistake is actually a big mistake against the opposer.
Jeff Horn, the former WBO welterweight champion, best known for his stunning upset over Manny Pacquiao, delivers a cautionary take for Canelo Alvarez ahead of a potential clash. With Terence Crawford, Horn admits that Canelo's size, power, and wealth of experience could allow him to dictate the early stages of the fight. He predicts Canelo will come forward aggressively, attempting to bully Crawford with physical strength and pressure that could initially put him on the defensive. However, Horn stresses that Crawford is a master of mid-fight adjustments. Once he settles into rhythm, he becomes an entirely different fighter, one who is incredibly hard to neutralize. Horn points out Crawford's ability to change styles seamlessly, his exceptional timing, and his killer instinct when sensing weakness. He warns that if Canelo fails to dominate early, the later rounds will likely swing in Crawford's favor. In Horn's view, Crawford's stamina and composure under fire would eventually dismantle Canelo. For that reason, Horn openly sides with Crawford, believing his ability to systematically break down opponents gives him the edge if the fight extends deep.
I favor Canelo. Not by a lot, but I do favor him. I just think that, I think the skull fight was just a bad style. And I think Canelo was like, why force the issue? You know what I mean? I'm up. This guy's running. I'm not gonna take a chance. So I think that it was that kind of fight for Canelo. But Madrimov did give Crawford problems. You know what I'm saying? And where I felt like, damn, at 54, he gave you problems. 68 is different. You know what I'm saying? So you going up 3 weight classes, because he was 47, 54, 60, 68, that's 3 weight classes. It's a major difference, man. And one thing is like, right, so people are saying Canelo has problems with movers. But the reality is Crawford's not a mover. Crawford's not a fighter that fights on his feet in the sense of boxing, kind of like, let's say, how a Pernell Whitaker would box or how Landy Lara would box. Crawford is a fighter that works on angles. He's not on his feet like Muhammad Ali. You know what I'm saying? He's not that kind of boxer. So he's going to be there to get hit, And I feel like that favors Canelo because Canelo's going to hit you in the arms. He's going to hit you in the elbows. He's going to hit anything you give him, he's going to take it. You know what I mean? And now is Crawford just going to switch his style and become a mover, moving up 3 weight classes? So now you're going to put all that weight on your legs and you never boxed like that before. How can you do that?
Teddy Atlas, one of boxing's most respected minds and longtime trainers, pushes back strongly against criticism surrounding Terence Crawford's performance in his debut at 154 pounds against Israel Mack. Many skeptics have used that fight to argue Crawford won't be able to handle a naturally bigger opponent like Canelo Alvarez. Atlas dismisses that narrative as short-sighted, reminding fans that great fighters often need time to adjust when moving up in weight. He explains that success at higher divisions requires more than just carrying skills upward. It demands adaptation and timing, range, stamina, and learning to manage added pounds without losing explosiveness. Crawford's ability to overcome Madrimov's physicality in that first test already showcased his adaptability. With that experience under his belt, Atlas believes Crawford will only look sharper, faster, and more fluid in future fights at 154. He insists that the Crawford we saw against Madrimov is just the beginning, and the next version will be even more dangerous, making him a genuine threat to a fighter as decorated as Canelo Alvarez.
Now, so I avoided that. I would bring in specific sparring partners that knew how to be a sparring partner. Yeah, if I wanted some, I went over to him before the day started. Listen, I want you to do this. All right. I'm paying him. I have the right to do that. I want you to move more today. I want you to, you know what? I want you to press him a lot. You know what? There was a fight I was getting a guy ready for, and I was worried about the first couple rounds. So I said, when the bell rings, I want you to rush out of the corner and go right after him. And I was, obviously I had my guy ready because we were getting ready for that kind of fight plan, for the possibility that the opponent would come out that way. So I wouldn't look to get a boots Ennis. I mean, nothing wrong with that's what they want. That's fine. But, and I get it, the style, the size, the length. I understand. It's not a bad pick from that point of view. But for me, again, I never go down that road because I got my guy getting ready for a fight. I don't want to leave it in the gym. I don't want to get into that kind of war in the gym. No, I want to have control of all aspects of what the hell I'm doing in the gym to get ready for one night. So no, I wouldn't do that. I'd get the right spar partners. If I thought I had a guy, I get guys that my guy could work with, and if he was having an off day, he could kind of, have his way and do what he wanted with the guy. I'd have one of them. I'd probably have 3 guys, sometimes 4, depending on where we were at, with the calendar when the fight was coming up.
Crawford's triumph over Israel Madrimov at 154 pounds did far more than add another victory to his resume. It cemented his place among the sport's rare multi-division legends. By conquering a new division, Crawford became a 4-weight world champion, adding this achievement to his legacy at lightweight, junior welterweight, and welterweight. Even more historic, he became the first male fighter in the 4-belt era to achieve undisputed status in 2 separate divisions, a feat that underscores his unmatched consistency and dominance across different weight classes. The Madrimov fight carried greater significance than just the belts. It demonstrated Crawford's ability to carry his intelligence, pinpoint timing, and defensive mastery into a higher division against naturally bigger men. Madrimav's physicality and strength were neutralized by Crawford's patience, accuracy, and strategic adjustments. This win reassured both fans and critics that Crawford is not only capable of surviving at higher weights, but thriving at the very top level. It further reinforced his reputation as one of boxing's most adaptable and dangerous champions, regardless of the scale on the weight-in.
And a lot has been taken out of you in the gym. You left it in the gym. And we heard that Jaron Boots Ennis was getting the best of Canelo Alvarez in his sparring sessions. That he possibly gave him a black eye. We saw the knot on his head. That was just a week ago. The fight is next week, next Saturday. So 3 weeks out from the fight, and you having this hard sparring sessions with Jaron Boots Ennis, who wants to prove a point. Leave no doubt. Jaron Ennis is going into those sparring sessions not just to be a sparring partner, but to gauge where he stands against a legend and a Hall of Famer and a superstar like Canelo Alvarez, to understand where he can get better and understand that he can actually compete on that level. So make no mistake about it. Jaron Boots Ennis wasn't in there to lay down. Now, he had a job to do. He was there for a specific reason, which is to give Canelo looks that Terence Crawford could possibly give him. But you best believe in those sparring sessions, he gonna give what he have. He gonna test the waters to see where he stands, right? Not just to help Canelo, not just to be a dummy. There's a reason you bring in a high profile fighter. And so Teddy Atlas believes this is a huge mistake on Canelo Alvarez's part, because now he has possibly left it in the gym. And now he got to go into battle with Terence Crawford. So it's like having 2 fights in a matter of 3 weeks, and your body's going to show the wear and tear.
Fernando Vargas Jr. The rising prospect and son of former world champion Fernando Vargas offers a candid assessment that favors Terence Crawford in a possible clash with Canelo Alvarez. Vargas Jr. points out that Canelo's career has been grueling, with nearly 70 professional bouts against top-level competition. That kind of schedule inevitably takes a toll, slowly draining reflexes, explosiveness, and overall sharpness. While Vargas Jr. still recognizes Canelo as one of the sport's greats, he believes the years of wars have left their mark. He observes that Canelo's once devastating power no longer looks quite as punishing, and the hunger that defined his rise seems less visible today. On the other hand, Vargas Jr. sees Crawford as a fresher, hungrier champion, with fewer fights, a disciplined lifestyle, and a relentless drive to prove himself. Crawford continues to fight with an edge of urgency. According to Vargas Jr., this gap in energy and determination may prove decisive. He concludes that Crawford's sharpness and burning desire for greatness could overwhelm a Canelo, who has endured the wear and tear of too many battles.
Think that obviously we know the one who has the ability to make adjustments is Crawford. We have literally never ever seen Canelo do anything else. He's not gonna sit back and do and catch and counter. He's not gonna come up. He's not gonna do anything different. You know what I mean? So I think if Canelo starts to do this, but yes, he does have the ability to change some things.
Sean, what about
going back the other way?
What about the Austin Trout fight, the first Golovkin fight, who was
That's a Canelo years ago.
Yeah, I know.
We haven't seen that. Right.
I don't remember those fights.
I mean, might as well talk about the 19-year-old because it's this Canelo now. It's just more like jab, jab. Overhand.
It was those fights. So those fights were the experiences.
Zero chance he tries to bring any of that stuff out again.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either, but I'm just...
I don't think he has that gear anymore, personally.
I don't either.
Because of his age.
Funny, because he's an older, what is he,
35, about 34, going on 35, or is 35.
But he has older because he's had like 60, 70
almost
fights now. Almost 70 fights.
He went pro 15, 14, something like that, right?
Yeah.
See how protected you were? See how protected you were? So I think it's going to be a great fight. He thinks that it could be a dog fight. I don't think it's going to be a dog fight. Are you still feeling that way?
It could. I'm feeling less like that. I'm feeling less like that because I think Crawford is gonna is not coming in to fight like Caleb Plant or Billy Joe. I think Crawford's coming to counterpunch with bad intentions. But I think the way the fight becomes anticlimactic is if Crawford, the great Terence Crawford, feels something early in the fight that's different than anything he's ever felt in the lower weights.
When it comes to Canelo Alvarez's legacy, the debate often gets lost in extremes. Some critics downplay his achievements by pointing to opponents who were past their best, while others elevate him as an untouchable legend. The truth, however, lies somewhere in between. Even if Terence Crawford were to beat him, such an outcome should not diminish Canelo's place as one of boxing's all-time greats. Over the years, he has fought and beaten champions across multiple weight classes, consistently competing at the highest level and staying dominant for more than a decade. While detractors may nitpick the circumstances of certain wins, his body of work remains extraordinary. The fairest way to view this potential matchup is not as a test of whether Canelo's legacy is real, but as an opportunity to recognize Crawford's brilliance if he succeeds. Respect for one fighter's greatness should not erase acknowledgement of the other. Both men stand as generational talents whose careers have elevated the sport.
And this isn't me glazing, it's just a fact. Canelo has fought the who's who. Sure, were all of them in their prime? No, but that's not his fault. He moved up in weight to fight some people. He sought out difficult opponents and matchups. You know, same way you're like, oh, Floyd didn't necessarily fight some of the best names in his resume at the best time in their career. Not his fault. Floyd went up and sought people out. So Canelo's sitting there like, yeah, I don't give a shit. And he's pretty much the only guy that can really say that, right?
I feel I'm the best, and that's it. I don't focus on if the people say or put me in the first position, I'm the best. I feel I'm the best. I'm doing because I love boxing.
I call Canelo out because, like I said, he the last great fighter amongst the era that surpassed us. This is my mega fight. This is my moment.
You didn't have much interest in this Crawford fight. You were saying that there wasn't much in it for you, and you pointed out that people will say that he was too small. Well, what changed?
I think he's one of the best fighters for more fun. No, he accomplished a lot of things too. Mexican with the American fighter is always big.
When he fights you at Allegiant Stadium,
Canelo's like, I knew the money was crazy. That's why he's like, yeah, I knew that the Mexican fighter versus the American fighter. Canelo can draw Allegiant Stadium. That's what it is. I mean, yes, there's the element of greatness involved as well.
Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and like this video and stay tuned for more like this.